Hi, everyone. Julia here, recording this December 2nd, 2022. Waiting on, nope, I'm not waiting any longer. There's James Brockhurst. Hey, James.
Hi, Julia.
So, yeah, we just watched a very interesting video, right?
Yes, very.
I will definitely link it in the comments and yeah, check it out. So,
I will.
basically, in line with our cakes quite a bit, right?
Yeah, lines up perfectly with yesterday. What was revealed to me as well, and what do you remember on a video I said about? I got a glimpse of something that looks like a ball with spikes coming out of it. It's been used a lot in the last, shall we say, 3 years.
Right?
This reality is an illusion, it's a reflection, it inverts everything, but and it presents everything in a very mocking way. um I suppose really I should introduce myself. I'm a man of wealth, and I'm a man of taste. Pleased to meet you. Won't you guess my name? Now, that's not about any one of us. That is about all of us. These are clues that are being given. There's something that is permeating through. There is a good and a bad side. It's a realm of contrasts. The good side seems to work and guide through art in particular. So a rolling stone, that's lyrics from the song Sympathy for the Devil. Well, we've all got a devil inside of us. It's the devil is just a sort of basically an anagram of dividing L. And if you look down, you've got two souls which sit under two calves, two bulls, two young bulls. That's why they're called calves on the legs. Uh, yeah,
Right, and devil spelled backwards is lived, so that's
yeah.
another place where they've got everything flipped.
Well, how many times have people said about living many lifetimes, many avatars? Well, that's where the lived comes from. uh, I would recommend look at the Rolling Stones Vivo official video, which has just got the writing in red and black. Think about that video and those colors that were described as well. All of this is highly significant, and it ties in perfectly with a which can probably end up as two videos that I'm going to be bringing out with the decode of two what a lot of people would say are iconic albums. In fact, one of them next year, it's 50 years old, and that is Pink Floyd's Dark Side of the Moon. With this spiritual journey, every aspect of it, the language lessons of the heart, it points to one thing: going within, looking for the source of everything, not dealing with the outplay end of things, but going back to source. The color that is associated with that is pink. Floyd, it comes from a Welsh word which means basically grey haired. So it's implying age as well. And if you look at all these mythological deities, they're always, especially with like the Norse mythology, they're often depicted as these gods as like slightly older than middle-aged and greying. But like with every map, to navigate your way through, a map will always have a legend, a leg end. Well, that's the soul's, that's about getting to the root of things. They're sort of really digging in oneself. So if you look at the album cover, of Dark Side of the Moon. It's a single white light from a source, which then goes through a triangle or a pyramid, you could see it as, and it's fractalized into the simulation of chrome. Well, chrome is color, the colors of the rainbow. That whole first album is about the facing your shadow side. That is why it is the Dark Side of the Moon. The first track opens, you can hear I forget, I can't remember which of the band actually sort of narrates it. He says, "I know that I'm mad. I've always been mad. I've been mad for years." It's those of us that don't fit in with this reality, because the rest of the world will see us as mad. And then there's a theme in that album about time and about money, but it's referring to true wealth, because everything you look at is, turn it inwards, and if you've got more than one character, internalize it and see they are aspects of you that are being described. So going back to the Rolling Stones, I'm a man of wealth. Well, wealth, it's about the true wealth, and taste is an anagram of state. It's a state of mind. Also taste, it's the fifth sense, although we're described as having like 5 external senses, but in a way you could say we have 4, because you cannot have taste without touch. It's an extension of touch. You can't eat anything without touching it first, even if it's, say, an apple on a piece of string. Your lips or your teeth are going to come in contact with it, so there's always touch before this taste. The tongue will touch anything it eats, and then the taste buds will decode the flavor or flavors. So that Dark Side of the Moon album is the foreshadowing. That's doing the facing the dark night of the soul. Now, and the follow-up album 2 years later in 1975. So you've got Dark Side of the Moon 1973. So you've got 1973. So it's a 10-10 or an 11. So 1975 for the next album. So you've got 19 and 75. So you've got 10-12. So you've got 1-2-1 being expressed there. So one in two on 2 legs, and it's about becoming one again. 1 becomes 2, becomes 1. If you look at the nature of everything, just look at a tree. It has roots, they spread out. It has branches that spread out. We're encouraged in this external world to look out of our side at many different things. We fractalize ourselves. This fractalization thing is another aspect of this reality. So I'm sure that many of us have had this thought when you come into contact with people that are on the same frequency and you wish you're all together, and so you'd say, "Wish you were here." So that's the second Pink Floyd album. So look very carefully at the album cover. You have 2 men, or it's depicted as 2 men. One is facing to the right, shaking hand with one that is burning, that's facing to the left. The buildings on the left are in light. The ones on the right are in the darkness. In the foreground, you have a shadow. Then you have like a double drain just in front of these 2 men. There's so much just in that album cover that I'm just doing this off the top of my head at the moment, but there's so much in these things. And then look at the structure of that Wish You Were Here album. You've got Shine On You Crazy Diamond, parts 1 to 5 at the start, and then you've got 6 to 10 at the end. That is highly significant. That is the journey into the non-physical, the metaphysical being shown in that. It's basically like you've got an Old Testament with Dark Side of the Moon and a New Testament with the Wish You Were Here. And what are you wishing that was here? You're putting yourself back together. You're burning away your old self that is looking to the left, looking to the past, whereas the one that it's shaking hands with, because you are reuniting yourself, you're bringing yourself back together, you are making friends with yourself. And it's looking to the right, it's looking towards the buildings that are in the shadow. So that's just a decode of that anyway. But that sort of all came through yesterday. I listened to both albums and I thought I need to go back through that, make notes. There's so much material in that. And then seeing this, I can't remember the name of the channel, but that sort of puts it together. That's bang on. I can't help thinking as well, you look at The Simpsons where they're enclosed under a dome. They're trapped in a reality bubble, as it were.
Right. And I like how you brought out in the beginning how through art we get so many messages, whether the actual artist intends it or not. There's so much benevolent coding that comes through art somehow. It's like it's because I guess they know that real soulful people are going to embrace art so they can communicate that way, perhaps. I don't know.
This is why you've got a control system that tries to grab artists and sort of pull them into their system. But think about a rolling stone. Well, stones don't roll unless they evolve and they then develop a second body. It also says it and repeats in that album. I mean, you'll hear repeatedly woo woo. Well, what does Ken Wheeler say about meditation and all that side of things? He calls it woo woo. And then the line that's repeated that really should stand out to everybody. I'm sure it goes on the lines of, I'm sure you have a question about the nature of my game. Well, the game, that's what we're in. We're in the ultimate computer game. It's a biological computer, as it were. So that's why it has nature. And it's a carbon copy.
Yeah, the name of that YouTube channel is The Tree of Knowledge. And it's video number 186, which was just made, I think, yesterday or the day before. Gloria shared that. And this lady talks about how the Great Pyramid is actually a flying vehicle, right?
Yeah.
Is that how it goes, or just the capstone part? But
Yeah,
wow, she's just
before she said it on the video, I thought what she's talking about at Mecca is the capstone. That's why they circle anti-clockwise 7 times.
right.
Because
So
go in and have a look at what's in there. It's kept hidden in a cube, in a black cube. It's almost as if you've got the ultimate criminal who loves to display its trophies, but secretly also wants to get caught. And if you look at the external presentation by their medium, which is the media, the medium of AI, they are projecting out their internal chaos because they know what's happening. They know their end is coming. But they're very much in their negative fear state. But that is the role they have to play. It's like, it is a huge theatre show, and like at the end of a theatre show, like a pantomime. Notice in pantomime that was like, it's a man plays the older woman, and it's a young woman plays the hero. But when the curtain or the veil it comes back, they both come out and take a bow to the audience. They're just playing a role. I'm not defending the methodology, but appreciate that also there's a cosmic law of do no harm to anything or anyone else, forgive your enemies and so on. but they're not actually your enemies. They're guiding, but because we're in a realm of Maya and you have this distortion frequency, it's very much like the frustration of Mima the dwarf, or which looks like the way it's spelled as mime, M-I-M-E, in Siegfried of Wagner's Ring Cycle. After Siegfried has tasted the blood of the dragon, he can decode the thoughts of Mima. Mima is saying things, but Siegfried is hearing his true intentions. He's become transparent to him. He can see through him. And Mima is frustrated and is saying, no, I didn't say I was going to poison your drink. I've made you a refreshing drink. But of course, Siegfried is reading the thoughts, not the words. So he's reading the intent behind the words. Everywhere you look, if you get a song come into your head or a film come into your head, it's a clue to go and look at it again and internalize what is presented to you. It's back to that catchphrase, taking away what, strike the screen, take away one of those 9 squares and reveal the picture and say what you see.
Yeah, because these songs, like you said, when they pop into your head, there's some kind of download, perhaps decode, because it seems like more and more that kind of things happen, and the more aware and awake you are about that, you'll notice more and more that you get messages from all kinds of different angles and sources. So
This is it.
gotta
And
really pay attention. That song "Middle of the Road" by the Pretenders came into my head the other day, and I listened to it once, but need to listen to it again.
well, that's the neutral path, because this reality, it's like an electromagnet. It's like when it's like a magnet. And as Ken Wheeler has shown, and others, it's the dielectric, it's that thin hourglass part in the middle. Without that, nothing works. So it is human energy that is being harvested and getting you to focus and put attention and energy, as like Lana said on the reading she did last night. I can't remember the name of the book now, but we empower these things when we give attention to them. It's expressed in of all places, it's a Disney film with Sam Neill called Young Merlin. And the way they get rid of the Lady of the Lake and the Black Queen is to turn their backs on them and give them no attention, therefore no energy. And they disappear. But of course, you've got a micro play out on this as well.
Yeah, and definitely the worst treatment you can give someone is just to not ignore them, indifference.
Yeah, it's diffusing a bomb, so to speak, because the ones that are projecting out their internal anger, they want a reaction. But then if you react and match that frequency, it will escalate. It creates a bigger fire. But it's the internal fire. As I've said before, that everything in this reality is based on human physiology and on our internal design. So the Great Pyramid, with those white casing stones, is an architectural interpretation of humanity. If you think about the most difficult part to get rid of is the teeth. They're covered in white enamel. So it's finding the pyramid, the fire within oneself, and finding that cornerstone within oneself. And then that will lead to activation. It's not going to take many. If you think of how it's expressed in the tilt of the Earth as 23.5 degrees. So if we're taking that sort of, I don't know how best to break this down really, but so if we take the dome as being 180 degrees because it's a physical reality, so it's only half of it. It's not that far out. So 23.5 degrees of 180 degrees is something probably in the region of about 14%, which is probably referencing the 144. So it's the way I see it, I sort of broke it down as you've got this countdown sequence of 8 billion, 25%. It's a mercy killing because they won't be able to handle it. So there's your 7 from the 25%, and then that's going to lead 6 billion. So you've gone 876. That reduces by a third to 4. So out of the 4 billion, it's not going to take a lot because part of the role is the healing and helping others and helping to guide others, being benevolent, sharing is caring, as it were. So humanity will jump ship very easily if they think they're on the losing side. Because if you look at the pattern with this spiritual path, how many are at the ultimate level? If you think of it in the hierarchical terms, how many have achieved all the aspects of it? So many are going to be on the path, but because it appears so complex and it's undoing that system programming of negativity within ourselves, it does seem to be a minefield. So there will be some that will achieve that level, and it doesn't have to be that great a number, but then it will be to help the others. There is a human race, but that race is not competing against each other. It is a race, as I said this a long time ago on a video. It's a race to find the exit, the exodus. But then it's not just finding the exit and like, well, to hell with you lot, I'm going through and I don't care what everybody else, because that wouldn't be benevolent. It's like being the perfect gentleman, you find the door and you hold it open. There's a micro and a macro to everything in this reality. So it's essential to do that inner work. But then, of course, I think a lot of us will be going to the Middle East, the Middle Earth, because it's always at the center. It is like with the Kundalini rising, that video you shared, I forget the two, was it Toltec technology, I think it was. I can't remember.
Toltec Holistic School.
Yeah.
Toltec Holistic School, yeah.
It's being heart-centered. Well, that's right in the middle on the chakra system. Green is associated with being neutral. So it's not really about going out there and doing good. There's plenty of people who do good. There's people who are ensnared into various rabbit holes, like volunteering in charity shops, but those charities are all government registered. So they're dealing with an outplay end. So something that's dealing with heart disease or cancer, that's the outplay. That's not getting to the source of the problem, and that they're traps. So it's harvesting that good intentions for something else. The road to hell is always paved with good intentions. But without doing that shadow work, it's a wasted effort. It has to come from within first. But you got to find it within yourself. You've got to make friends with the devil inside. We've all got one inside of ourselves. But you can get it working in unison, in alignment. You can reform yourself within one, and you can acknowledge when these things come up and they don't become a problem any longer. It's like, oh, there's anger. I acknowledge it, but it's not taking control. There's rage or jealousy or whatever the negative emotion is. It's just identifying it within oneself recognizing it, just as the same we do in the external world. When you introduce to someone, as long as you remember them, you recognize them the next time you see them. So it's about internalizing and recognizing the emotions inside of us as well. It's internal sight, and that's in the feeling, because the emotions, you don't actually see them until they're externalized, but you feel them inside yourself. So if you recognize them inside yourself, you can think, there's that one coming up again. It's like, I need to have a word with myself.
Yeah, it all goes back to that self-awareness and doing something about it. Like some people notice things about themselves and then they deny it, right? That's what Language Lessons of the Heart has, not only judgment release, but denial release, because we're in such denial about so many things, and we just have to face it and move on. And it's so liberating once you do that. You know, it's one of those things that's so easy to do, but it's not easy to do. But once you do it, you're like, why didn't I do it sooner? You know, so emotional healing, man, put that on your Christmas list.
Well, clues are always in the words. It's all about self-discovery. Well, you're uncovering a disc, or what if it's like a mirror ball? And then what that's associated with a disc O. Well, we're organic, there's the O, but the full word is disc O tech. What type of tech are we talking about here? A biological computer? A frequency from it that's being generated and transmitted through the air? I mean, we're on air now, you could say. Televisions are on, the analog signal was broadcast through the air. So these controllers know about how to use ether and transmit things. But what they don't like is when we find out we actually have the same power. It's just we've been fooled into thinking we haven't got it. It's like if you take the whole astronomical thing of we're insignificant, we're just we're lesser than a grain of sand on Mars. We're lowly. We have no power. That's the message that's being put through to the subconscious. You can't do anything. You have no power. So that's why you have a mind control, a government, like Neil said on your in the last video, and it's a constant bombardment of this messages being transmitted to us, but then the eyes are for observing and then internalizing these things, and keeping in mind we're in a realm of mirrors, we're in a realm of illusions and distortions. It's then decoding what is being reflected to you, because it's all reflections. We reflect ourselves subconsciously in body language, we reflect ourselves in the colors we wear, and so on, and our actions and things. So it's all about internalizing everything and then seeing with the mind's eye, which obviously doesn't come out into the external. That then comes out into the external as a magnetic frequency in our informed field. And that is what interacts. Because sometimes you can come across someone on the same frequency and your informed field has already met their informed field before you physically got there. So then you have this instant soul recognition where there's not a word needed and it's bang. It's like, I know you, I'm looking at myself in a different form. It's the most beautiful thing to experience. It's
Yeah, I think most of us have experienced that, and it really is awesome. You'll just meet that person and everything will jive, and you'll just have that familiarity and casual comfortness around them.
Yeah, we're in a realm where everything is very material and physical, and one of the things that comes up on channels is star thoughts and about grid patterns and things. Well, this is in the metaphysical, but operating in a material world. So this is why we're all so spread out. We create a grid between us. What's just come into my head is grid reference. With coordinates on maps and things. So yesterday's star thoughts are today's star thoughts, because it's all in thought in the mind. That's the first sort of, it's the area where you process the things, depending on the programming, of course. I mean, you've only got to look at the Egyptian mummification process. They just stuck a skewer up the one of the nostrils and skewered out the brain. It's of no significance. It didn't go into those 7 jars. It's the organs that contain the cellular memory. That's the significant part. So regardless of whether you think ancient Egyptian is good or bad, there is something to be seen in that. And it is still revealing something. Again, it's whatever you look at, it will always have some truth in it, because if it didn't have any truth whatsoever, it would be so easy to spot and it wouldn't catch on with anybody. So there always has to be an advert, which is the adversary, and you can't have a lie without it having a foundation of truth to be based on, because lies aren't from the side of creativity. They can only be built upon something that's already there. And then you take the original thing and then you twist it, and then you give the message out in a twisted form to trick humanity. It's just undoing those twists. It's a bit like a champagne cork, the wire. It's just one piece of wire, but it's got 2 ends and it's been twisted over and twisted over. You've got to undo those twists and release the cork and release the energy outwards from within. And if you think about wine bottles and things, how they sort of they resemble half of an hourglass. They've got a neck and then they have a body. And then a cork. It's another way of expressing it is John the Baptist. He is beheaded and it is delivered on a silver plate, which is a representation of the moon. But it is about losing the head, off with their heads, which is a twisted barbaric version of letting go of the lower eye control of these avatars. So you have to lose the head, as it were, but not physically. And handing over the controls to the true you that is inside you.
Sorry, I couldn't hit my mute button. Yeah, and that's a lot of us don't want to know the true us. And so we avoid it and avoid it and avoid it. But you got to make friends with the true you and realize that you're awesome. You have to, and you were saying, it's all about release. And that's what language lessons of the heart is. It's emotional release, judgment release, denial release. Get all this stuff up and out of you, and start having that self-awareness and putting good things in your subconscious and unconscious, instead of the notion that you're not worthy or you're not good enough or you don't deserve or you never have enough, those kinds of things. So yep, it's all about releasing and reprogramming.
Yes. What hopefully will become clear with the language lessons of the heart. That's the best way to describe this. Say if you said, right, without doing the language lessons of the heart, I will get rid of all the things I've hoarded and just get rid of it all, sell it, give it away, whatever. It's going to leave a hole. It's going to leave a void that the first thing is like unplug and throw the television away. That creates a hole. And it's like, what am I going to put in its place? But if you look at the Christian saying of Christ the Redeemer, well, when you redeem something, you're exchanging. So, and there is no loss. Nothing is added and nothing is taken away. All you're doing is exchanging. So you're getting rid of the negativity, and you're then replacing that void that it's created, which is like, ooh, that's a horrible feeling. You're then putting something back in its place that sits more comfortably. So then there is no loss. There is no, I've got rid of the television, but now I have this feeling of lack, because you can flip with something else, like doing that language lessons for the heart. That would be a good thing to replace it with. Or the one I'm still doing, and it's absolutely fantastic, is to do that fists of anger meditation, because you're getting the air going around the body. You're exercising, because you can do this sitting down. It's 3 minutes to actually do it, but you really need the sort of warm up, getting yourself in the right state of mind, and then you've got the sort of come down afterwards, and then in looking at how you feel, how did you feel going through that experience of doing it. And the body will put up all sorts of complaints. It's like, this hurts, my body's aching, my shoulders are aching, and so on. But if you focus on the breathing, that falls away. You lose the awareness of those complaints from the lower conscious that's coming up, saying, I don't like this, I don't want to do this, this is new, this is unfamiliar. But the more you do it, it's becoming, I can't wait to do the next one. It's like, wow. So it's replacing a sort of seeing something with the perspective of, I've got to do this, I've committed myself to this. It's like, and it's now been changed to a positive perspective of, can't wait to do the next one. I'm going to probably extend this and try doing it standing up as well, and see how that goes, just as an experiment. Because this is the other thing, I've described this realm as being like a diagnostic zone, where you don't want to die an agnostic, because you're looking for the true creator that is inside yourself. And then I've lost my train of thought now. as it goes. It'll come back.
But yeah, can't stress enough to do that inner work and come out the other side.
Yeah, that's it.
Your life will totally change.
Yeah, it's a change, and then it sort of moves across into, I'm feeling the benefits of this, and it's like doing a backstroke, and it's like you're pulling this energy into yourself in the process, because it's all in the breathing anyway, and the breath is the life. It's like
Right, and I'll link Lana's video on that, and also language lessons of the heart video in the comments for people who are interested in looking into it further.
I would say, do look into it at least. Don't just say, oh, what's language lessons of the heart, and don't bother going any further, but actually have a listen to it and then try it. You've got nothing to lose. The only thing you'll lose is the time you would have spent, I don't know, watching television or something, an external distraction. As Lana says, this is your gift to you, to yourself, which you're then giving to the world. It's all about improving ourselves and transforming ourselves into being the best version of ourselves that we can be. I mean, you look at computer programs and things. They've got, like, you'll have whatever the program is, it'll say version 1.1 or whatever, and then it moves to version 2, and PlayStation 1, 2, 3. It's improving on itself all the time. So you can see why the material world does that. It's going through sequences. I mean, basically it comes down to a mathematical code of numbers, which would stretch so far as a binary code, it would be impossible to hold in the head, as it were. But we're getting glimpses of it. But this is so fantastically enormous in the physical sense that for the brain to comprehend all this, it does make you feel like your head's going to explode. I'm not saying I definitely haven't got it all, as I don't want to go into details, but I listened to something that sort of rocked me. So I'm now having to do another internal process. I've described this as like when you think you got to the top of the mountain, you just find that you're on a ridge, and there's another bit that's, oh, now the clouds are moved. It's like I've got to go up again. But again, it's like referencing a mountain is like referencing a pyramid as well. You got to, in this material realm, it's all about getting to the top, becoming the one that's in charge of the company or whatever, and better than everybody else, and controlling everybody else. But in the metaphysical sense, you're just taking control of yourself, not having power over somebody else. I mean, it's enough to do to have power over ourselves. That when you realize that the word was made flesh, the word is that voice in your head. So it's everything you think, everything you say, and everything you do. You've got to be mindful and aware of yourself all the time with this.
Absolutely. Because the minute you're not, all of a sudden with TICO or whatever you want to call it, negative default programming enters in with some really disgruntled emotion coming through, and you're like, hey, where did that come from? You know, it's so crazy how quick things can affect you when you're really paying attention. But like you said, when things like that happen, you just go, oh, wow, why am I doing that? Shake it off and, correct course, as Lana says, and go forward.
Isn't it funny how just by one vowel shift, you've got effect, affect, and infect, and like infectious disease. But with the right information now coming out, an expression is, oh, this video is going to go viral. Well, what has the external world been showing? I'm not going to say any more on it than that. I think everybody is very well aware of what I'm referring to. And then in the Latin word, it is via us. It is spread by us. These things are put out there. There's a term that people use about controlled opposition, but let's really think about what that means. Because if you see it from the other side perspective, wouldn't it be easier if you've got something you can operate through and feed information and not actually have to pay them a penny? So when we latch on to, oh, they're trying to kill us with this or that, and looking at the negative thing, we become that controlled opposition. And then that information is then spread quite rapidly across the web, as it were. So it's being mindful, it's having discernment, it's weighing things up. And as far as I can see, it all comes down to doing that language lessons of the heart. That, I feel, is one of those two keys. Getting on that right frequency, which is going to help unlock, well, it certainly unlocks a lot more inside oneself, being open to new information. And then it's like, I've got the answers, but then there's some new information presented. Now, do you wrap that information around what you've already got, or do you think, no, I need to reevaluate everything again now? This has given me another perspective. So if you look in the sky from perspective of standing on Earth. The sun isn't standing still. If it did, it would be like a magnifying glass. It would just burn one point. It keeps moving. And we are all suns. We're all lights, as it were, hidden within these avatars. But it's the metaphysical. It comes down to that soul recognition. It's like not seen with the physical eyes, but it's felt. And it's picked up by the mind's eye through the five senses. So whereas the sun will keep moving, it will give you a different perspective on a tree, and it will just keep going round and round, as it were. Otherwise, if it sits still, it becomes stagnant, and it's going to burn, and it's going to become like the sunlight through a magnifying glass. It would be concentrated on one particular spot and cause a fire, which is destruction. So it's about keeping moving. It's keep stepping into the unknown. I mean, we've all gone into the unknown. That's how you end up coming here. And then a lot will realize when they've come here that they wish they hadn't. And that's why for the first year or 2 years they scream their heads off, because it's like, oh dear, what have I done? I've come into this computer game and now I wish I hadn't. Because the younger the child, the more they know. Again, with this reality, it reverses everything. It's just when you come into a new avatar, you got to learn to control that vehicle. It's unfamiliar to you. You haven't learned language. You haven't learned 12 times table. You've got to go through all that process and start again every time. So it's an arduous process to have to go through. But the beauty of it is that their magic, or the illusory magic, doesn't work. And more, and I agree with what Neil said about, it seems that we've always been slaves and have never been able to break out of this. So maybe this is the big chance. It fits in. It certainly would fit in with, if we're coming to the end of the operation of this realm, that we'd this would be a big chance to take. And hell yeah, let's take the step into the unknown, because what is on the other side? I don't know. Let's go for it.
Right. And we really never know. I mean, everything's an unknown no matter which direction you go. So you might as well forge your own direction and do it the way you want to do it. And yeah, it's just amazing that we're figuring out how much control we do have. And like you said, it probably won't take that many, because the people who do get healed and can help others, more and more people will come to the healed people for help. And, that'll just the whole 100th monkey effect situation. And maybe only the real people can do that. Maybe all the NPCs aren't part of the collective anyway, really. So, I don't know.
Well, if they are just part of a computer program, part of the simulation, then they're lifeless anyway. So then that changes the perspective on, oh, what's happening is not actually evil. But if they are organic, real human beings, but they're just so firewalled off, it's going to be, the thing I suppose to liken it to is, they're in like a simulation and they're operating like a robot. So if I look at the sci-fi series Doctor Who, the humans that get turned into Cybermen have an emotional suppressing switch, but when that is switched back on, the shock is so horrific that their heads blow up. So imagine if you were so in with the program and believing what the official narrative tells you, to then find that you've been lied to, and what sort of effect would it have on them? I wouldn't wish that on anybody. So it would be like a mercy killing, as it were. It would release them through going through a horrific picture that they're going to see, because they'll be so full of fear, and being magnetic, if they're genuine, they're going to attract some very negative things towards themselves. And that's a horrible place to be, I should think. They will see a hell on earth. I mean, Revelations 7 or Revelations 9, I think, even talks about this. Those that will cling to their BS belief systems are going to be in for a very rough ride. But that's down to them. If they want to stick to that and stay closed-minded, well, there's not a lot you can do for them. They firewalled themselves off of their own stubbornness, as it were. But hopefully that they will, enough will say, hang on a minute, they're doing all right. They're being some guy, like that film, Some Guy. The guy's got a coffee cup in his hand, he's got a laptop under his arm, and he's smiling, but in the background is an apocalypse situation with fireballs and destruction, and he's totally unfazed by it because he's paying no attention to it. And he's just being some guy. That's a message to humanity that's coming through as well. Listen also to True Love Channel, what the Yolanda shows yesterday. I mean, that is another perfect perspective, how this is like one great big film set. And the world is a stage. But look at the way the world is. It's like, does every theatre put on exactly an identical Hamlet, for example, or do they use interpretation? Do they have slightly different backgrounds, certainly different actors and actresses? And this thing can be going on simultaneously in more than one place at one time. So the whole thing is a stage, and it is staged, and it is done in stages. So you've got the word ages, so you've got a reference to time in there as well. And of course, like a stage, it has many trapdoors. It has a curtain that goes across. So what you're presented, once that curtain goes back, you may find that those actors and actresses detest each other, or they may be best friends, but you don't see that side because they're playing a part, and they're presenting to an audience a picture of a story. But what is the real story? There's his story, but what about our story? That saying about, and this is backed up by, the intellect will only take you so far, and then you have to let that go and realize that you know nothing. And I think most people will realize this from whatever rabbit hole they've gone down. You won't find the bottom of it. You'll never get the definitive answer from it. And what you'll end up is finding you actually know less than you thought you knew. So it's so basically our story is, or my story is, the mystery, and it's hidden behind a mist, a veil, but we can discover it within ourselves. It's beautiful the way this all sort of decodes through what's presented. It's just looking for beyond that superficial, shallow surface presentation, and going like in spirituality, you go within yourself. So you're going below the surface and you go deep within inside yourself. So all these things that are presented to us, whether it be something that pops in your head, something you see, even YouTube recommendations, they're there for a reason. They are guiding us. But it's what we do with it, and it's like the Ouija board. It's the power is not in the card or the piece of plastic. It's empowered by our energy. But I mean, I wouldn't recommend that one because it consists of French and German for yes and yes. Well, circuits need a positive and a negative, like an outward and an inward, same as arteries and veins. The flow, it's like the tide. It is an ebb. There's an ebb and a flow to a tide. It's moving in and out. So Same with our blood. It's circulating around. It's keeping moving. And then it's weighing things up inside oneself. And of course, when it's all working in unison, so that red of the arteries and the blue of the veins, you put those two colors together, that's purple, which is associated with royalty, with being a king or a queen. Well, again, that's an internal thing. It's just being expressed in an external way and done in a way that somebody has power over somebody else. But internally, the only thing you're having power over is yourself. The battle starts within oneself to overcome every time. Everything is pointing to go within, get to the source of everything, which is within inside you. And if everybody is really 100% honest with themselves, who loves you more than you? Nobody loves you more than you. Nobody knows you more than you. Nobody knows how your internal feelings are about anything except you. It's nothing that is externalized. This is all going on inside of each and every one of us. So therefore, it must be about going within oneself to find these answers. And it comes back again to that language lessons of the heart. And look at that. You've got two L's. I've just realized this one. You've got the two L's representing the calf and the two souls. Then you've got the organic, and the TH is God in human form. So that's what's being shown in language lessons of the heart. You're moving from that lower I self of being on, thinking you're the physical body on these two legs, to realizing that you're an organic co-creator, basically. So yeah, that's the thing to do. Language lessons of the heart. Your playlists is a very good place to start.
Yeah, no doubt about it. You can give yourself a better gift in this time of giving, for sure. But yeah, James, I think that is a lot there. So you always give much to ponder, and I know you're going to put out a couple of videos decoding those songs, so that'll be really cool. And I'm going to look into Middle of the Road by the Pretenders, but you were kind of talking about that, the middle path kind of thing. So yeah, it's just so cool to be in this existence right now at this time when we're discovering all the magic, and all of our abilities, and more of us are making those discoveries and putting them into action and sharing our results. And yeah, you can already see things just, having kind of a domino effect in so many ways. Very cool. Are you still there, James? Maybe you're muted. All right. Well, it says he's still here in the meeting, but I don't hear him. So thanks everyone for listening. And remember to stay focused on what you want. Always help others if you can. Are you there, James?
Yeah, sorry, somebody at the door, I've just been given tenancy like notice or something. I haven't even read it yet. So, oh well, it's another thing to face. I look forward to it. I embrace it.
Right, whatever it is, you'll get through it and be another life lesson, because that's all there really is lessons and opportunities to grow. And like I said in a little video I did earlier, once you know better, you do better. And if we all get to that point, then the world just changes right there, with everybody just doing the best they can from the level of consciousness that they're at. And that's the thing, when you start doing this work, you have to raise the bar on your behavior. And I think that's why a lot of people avoid it, because they know that, whether it's conscious or subconscious knowledge, they do know that. And a lot of people just want to stay in their comfort zone, even if it's not comfortable. It's just a crazy thing. So it'll change your life so much for the better to do language lessons of the heart. Guarantee it. And it's free. there's so many people out there that paid big money to get healed emotionally, to overcome trauma. This just watch videos and do the work. How simple is that?
This is it. It's just you got to create the time and the space and have the desire to do it. It comes back to that blueprint of, well, how did you learn to walk? You had the desire to master it, and it became second nature. So apply that same template, that same blueprint to every other aspect of your life, and it becomes easy.
So there you have it. So I was just signing off when you were out of pocket for a minute there. So you have any last messages?
Well, I think we said it really. It's just do that language lessons of the heart. Do that real digging down to your inner core to find that cornerstone inside yourself. You've got the external presentation of it, but there's always a macro and a micro. We're in a realm of mirrors and illusions and reflections. It's about reflecting within inside oneself on everything that you're presented with, and then taking it from there. So if you've got doubt and fear, if you ain't shut the door on those ones, they're going to creep back in. They will always find a way back in, and they'll let you down at the worst possible moment. So my advice would be to definitely do that and shut the door on doubt and fear, and then you'll walk through this like some guy, as it were.
Yeah, we all want to be that guy with the drink and the computer running through the chaos with a smile on his face.
Yeah. Well, that may even be referencing a tablet.
Exactly. There we go. Another cross reference to so many different places. So yeah, it just keeps going and going. And there'll be a lot of links posted in the comments. So y'all check them out. And again, thanks for listening. And I'll just say it again. Always focus on what you want and help others if you can. Thanks a lot, James. We'll talk again soon.
Bye.